I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and today we are looking at a game so special, it's called Special, Knight Rider Special. And if you folks will indulge me for just a moment, I've always wanted to do this. Knight Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Michael Knight, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law. Okay, so I admit my timing may be a little off compared to the actual intro from the TV show, but it should show you how much I loved that show as a kid, that I still know all of the words to the intro by heart. In fact, my favorite Hot Wheels car when I was little was a car that was jet black with a switch underneath where you could flip up the headlights, and to me, that was the Knight Rider car. That was KITT. His grill didn't glow with the red beams swooping back and forth like the real KITT, but it was as close as I could get as a kid to actually having a miniature Hot Wheels version of KITT. And I adored that car, and I wish I still had it today. I even own a boxed copy of Knight Rider for the NES, but this game and that game are completely different other than having a background in common, being the TV show starring David Hasselhoff. This game is more akin to Outrun or Chase HQ, where you have to complete a course in a certain amount of time and take out bad guys along the way, getting bonus time for each one of the checkpoints that you reach, and using the twin machine guns mounted in KITT's hood to gun down the bad guys in their vehicles along the road. I was hoping at some point I could actually drive into the back of the Knight Industries van and get upgrades or repairs, but that doesn't seem to be possible, or if it is, I never figured out how to do it. In fact, early on in this game, I was using the one button to accelerate, not realizing that I was blowing through all of the turbojets that KITT had. So that's not how you're supposed to accelerate. What you actually do is hold up on the D-pad. That's how you increase your speed. So when you slow down because you hit a car, or you were too busy shooting at something, or you were going around a steep curve, you gotta hit up again to get your speed back up. And of course, it's in kilometers per hour, not miles per hour, because this game is for Japan, not the United States. At which point you may be asking, well, why didn't they localize it for TurboGrafx 16? Knight Rider was a very popular show on NBC, had a huge cultural cachet, and would no doubt have been an even bigger success released in the United States as compared to the Japanese market, where I don't know if Knight Rider was nearly as popular. I mean, obviously it was popular enough to get this game, but was it the smash hit that it was in the United States? I can't say because I didn't grow up in Japan and I really don't know. Here's my insight into why it wasn't localized though, and I may be right and I may be wrong, but I think you'll agree with my conclusion. The NES version was released in 1988 in Japan and 1989 in North America, but this wasn't released in Japan until 1994. At that point, TurboGrafx 16 was pretty well dead in the United States, and the Turbo Duo was dying its last gasp. It was breathing its last breath. So why would they spend the time and the money to localize Knight Rider Special for the US market? Because it was already well past the heyday of the TV show when it was at its peak of popularity in the 1980s. The original TV show ran on NBC from 1982 to 1986. If the NES game came out in North America 3 years after that, it was already just barely clinging on to the memory of Knight Rider for most people, and by 1994, I think it's pretty safe to say the value of that brand, it just wouldn't have been the same. Now, there have been sequels and revivals to Knight Rider over the years, but the one that people have the fondest memory of is David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight. That's what this is based on, and 1994 is really pushing it for relevancy. But obviously, back in video, thought there was enough money in releasing a PC Engine version of it, and they probably weren't wrong given that the PC Engine was a very big console in Japan, far bigger than the TurboGrafx 16 in the United States. In Japan, PC Engine rivaled Famicom in sales and popularity for many years until the format finally died out, and that's partly due to bad planning on their part with sequels to the PC Engine. I mean, the PC Engine Duo was fine, but the core graphics and the super graphics both kind of flopped, and things never really got better from there. So it was their own fault that the PC Engine brand died out, but there was still a large enough install base with PC Engines and Duos and the portable version that we called Turbo Express in the United States. There were a lot of different people who had a way to play PC Engine games. So even if you sold Knight Rider Special to 1% of that install base, that would probably be a healthy profit for Pack-In Video. And the good news for them is that by 1994, the licensing rights for Knight Rider had to be pretty darn cheap. Because again, this was over a decade after the show debuted on NBC and close to a decade after the show's run ended. So why not license it for the cheap, use whatever name value Knight Rider had, and basically make an Outrun/Chase HQ clone, just slapping that license on top of it and getting as much bang for your buck as you possibly could. And no doubt, Pack-In Video made a profit on this. I don't know if it was a gloriously huge amount, but I'd be hard-pressed to believe they didn't make some amount of money on it, enough to keep their business afloat and keep going producing more games for various consoles with whatever licenses they could afford to grab. Now I'm left to ponder how really best to succeed in this game. I don't need to localize it to understand the gameplay as such, but I do need to figure out when the best time it is to kick in the turbo jets, because it just seems like something you do at random for fun, and it leaves you hanging in the air for a long while when you do it, but there seems to be no strategic purpose to it in the actual game itself, unless I'm missing something. There's also a boss fight when you get to the end of a stage, and I've yet to figure out how to win that boss fight. I assumed you would just simply gun down the car with your machine guns. That doesn't seem to do it. Ramming it with your turbojets doesn't work. I don't know what it takes to beat the boss, so I'm gonna have to keep playing Knight Rider Special a few more times in order to draw a conclusion on how to win and advance to the next stage. But the good news is, as Chase HQ and Outrun clones go, it's sufficient. It's got a good soundtrack, the car is easy to control, everything feels right. It's just I don't know how to win at it yet. It's going to take me a little time to figure that out, but I think it's worth the effort. Knight Rider Special is special to me because it's based on a TV show that I loved. I wish it had come out sooner for both the Japanese and the US market, and then maybe it would be finally remembered and held up in critical acclaim today, which I think not even the NES game was. That one is kind of a footnote in history of licensed NES games, and I actually think Knight Rider Special is a little bit better. It's just a little bit more fun to play. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been the PC Engine Files. Like, share, comment. They all help the channel with the engagement metric. And of course, subscribe if you're not a subscriber to get new episodes of the PC Engine Files every week and new content every day. Thanks for watching and enjoy the music while I let it fade out to black. I'll see you all later. Hey there folks, this is Mr. MegaManFan, and today we are looking at Darius Plus, or Darius Plus, pronounce it whatever way you choose, but this is the PC Engine Files. I'm going to apologize if you hear anything in the background like construction noise or my cat yodeling, because I don't have a soundproof studio. I've gotten as far away from all the different noise sources as I possibly can, but this is the best I can do. It's also not been a red letter day for me in general because I got some bad news about a family member, and I'm sure Ryan or somebody else in the comments will be like, Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, let me just tell you, by the time you're watching this, it will be well after that occurred because I tape shows pretty far ahead on the PC Engine files, so I may be in a sour mood right now, but I'll be well over it by the time you're actually watching this. So thanks for your concern and sympathies, but try not to worry too much. I'll be okay. It's just that life throws you a curveball sometimes. You were expecting one thing and another happens, which is kind of the story of Darius Plus for me in general with recording this footage, because I decided in advance of recording the footage that I should use a TurboGrafx style controller to get the most authentic experience possible with the shooter. So I grabbed the one that was made by 8-Bit Do for the PC Engine Mini and TurboGrafx Mini, and I thought that would be the answer to all my problems, and I would play much better than I usually do when I'm trying to play with a non-standard controller or any other kind of operation like with the keyboard. You know, I want to play this in a way that feels right compared to playing it on a real TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine. Well, it synced up just fine with my MacBook. That wasn't the problem. The lack of switches on the controller was the problem. On a real TurboGrafx or PC Engine controller, you have turbo switches at the top with 3 different settings for slow, medium, and fast. And there's no way to do that with the 8-Bit Do controller. I thought, okay, I'll just go into the preferences for OpenEMU and turn on auto fire, and then it'll just solve that problem. No, there was no way to do that. And then I thought, well, I'll just map the top 2 buttons above 1 and 2 to turbo fire buttons. No, when you map 1 and 2, it maps those 2 buttons as well. So I was just mystified at this point. I'm like, OpenEMU can't be that inflexible. This is one of the most popular and most well-rated options for playing retro games on a Mac. So I checked, and there was a version update from 2.08 to 2.1, and I thought, okay, this might solve the problem. Then it gave me an absolute bear of a time because it said, you can't do this update because OpenEMU is a read-only file and it's not in the applications folder, so we're not going to install this update. Fine, whatever. Took it out of the folder it was in, put it in the applications folder, booted it up again. Then it said, you have a new update available. Would you like to install it? Yes, freaking yes. Go ahead and do it already. So I installed the update, relaunched everything, relaunched my screen capture for the video, relaunched my hijacker for the audio, got all of them all synced up again, got back into the preferences in OpenEMU, and then it said I could map a button to toggle the auto fire. I couldn't set it automatically, but I could program a button to do it, either a keyboard button or a controller button, which left me in a bit of a bind because the 8-Bit Do controller has the 1 and 2 buttons, the theoretical turbo 1 and 2 buttons, which don't really do anything. I guess that's just 4 buttons if you're using it with a switch, because it can be used as a switch controller. How do I solve this problem? Well, I'm gonna have to sacrifice a button somewhere. So I left the run button mapped to the run button on the 8-Bit Do so I could actually start the game. And instead of the select button being mapped to select, I mapped the select button to toggle the auto fire on or off. And then of course, it doesn't do that for every button you press. You have to use select to toggle it individually for each one. So I had to toggle my shooter and my bombs, each with a separate combination of pressing that button and then pressing select. But once you turn it on, it stays on. That's the good news. So at that point, I finally started making some progress in Darius Plus, but only after an enormous amount of headaches and frustrations and having a crappy day in general. So if I just don't do very well in this footage, perhaps you will understand why. Not the greatest of days for Mr. MegaManFan. I would also like to amend a previous remark at this point because I said those top two buttons above 1 and 2 don't serve the turbo functionality. Well, they don't in OpenEMU, and I don't know what they do on Switch without syncing it up to a Switch again, but I think when it's actually plugged into my TurboGrafx Mini, those top two buttons do function as turbo buttons since there's no switches to set turbo when you're playing it on the TurboGrafx Mini. So they do work for that purpose. They just don't work for OpenEMU for that purpose. And on Switch, they probably either function as duplicate buttons, or they just act like A, B, X, and Y instead of duplicating 1 and 2. Now, getting back to the game itself, Darius Plus was released only for PC Engine in Japan on September 21st, 1990. This would have been the easiest game in the world to localize and convert to TurboGrafx 16, because it's a side-scrolling shooter, and all of the options at the top are all in English, and even the game over is in English, and the score is obviously the same no matter what language you're in, so they could very well and very easily have ported this to TurboGrafx 16, but they did not. I think we've seen some evidence of why on Genesis does, because games like Sagaya were actually Darius games, but the franchise had so little value in the United States, they gave it a completely different name instead of acknowledging that it was a Darius game. So they probably felt they would have had to have gone to the same lengths to port anything Darius related to TurboGrafx 16, and then they're like, screw it, why bother? Well, they should have bothered, because it's a fun shooter, albeit a very difficult one. It's got some nice upgrades when you pick up the different colored capsules to increase your shooter, move faster, give you a shield, all the kind of things you would expect from games like R-Type, Gradius, Twinbee, etc., etc. There's everything you know and expect of a shooter game here, so the only thing standing in their way was their willingness to do it and how well they thought it would sell in the North American market, so they obviously thought they weren't going to do it because it wouldn't sell well, and they weren't willing to put in the effort. That's doubly ironic when you consider that this is actually a Super Graphics enhanced game. If you put Darius Plus in a Super Graphics, there's higher graphical fidelity and less flickering because it can handle more sprites. So they went to a lot of effort in one regard and none whatsoever in another. But the game still works fine on any normal TurboGrafx 16 if you have a HuCard converter, which meant a lot of people imported it and continue to do so to this day, which means it also fetches some not insignificant prices. $40 loose, $50 complete, $120 new and sealed. I definitely don't recommend the latter of those three, and if there's only a $10 difference between loose and complete, you might as well pay the extra $10 and get a copy in a box. But it is not going to be cheap whether it's loose or complete, so emulation may be a preferable way to go when it comes to playing Darius Plus. It would have been nice if they had included it in the TurboGrafx Mini or the PC Engine Mini, but they did not in any version, any region, which suggests to me that the licensing price from Taito was too high, or they just thought it was too obscure and not going to be a hit with the international market. So, once again, they did not bother. There's a lot of did not bothers with Darius Plus when it comes to this port, and it's also going to be a prevalent theme for the series in general, because take Darius Alpha for example. It's a boss rush version of Darius Plus, and you could only buy it in Japan, and you could only buy it with a special coupon and proof of purchase of Darius Plus and Super Darius, so they only made about 800 copies in total, and getting a copy, a physical edition of Darius Alpha now, is going to literally require you to hack off an arm and a leg and sell them on the open market for as much money as you can get just to have the money to buy a copy of Darius Alpha now. So forget about it. If I feature that one on a future episode of the PC Engine Files, I'm just going to straight up tell you to emulate it, play it on an EverDrive, or a Super SD or a Super HD System 3, because you should not spend the kind of money that Darius Alpha goes for. In no way, shape, or form is that worth it. Emulate it or imitate it in an EverDrive. Don't buy that shit. And if shooters aren't your thing, then definitely don't buy Darius Plus, because this one is punishing with or without the turbo buttons. It gets slightly more manageable with the turbo functions. I say slightly with a very high level of confidence, because you can get killed by everything. You can get killed by running into enemies. You can get killed by getting shot down by enemies. You can get killed by running into the walls of the cavern that you're traveling through. You just get killed. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been the PC Engine Files. Thanks for watching. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and today we're looking at Toshi Tensu Keikaku Eternal City, or Eternal City Toshi Tenso Keikaku, whichever way you choose to arrange the titles. I think most people will just call it Eternal City for short. And I'm going to cut Ryan off at the pass right here because, for once, I actually went to romhacking.net before doing the voiceover for this video, and sadly, there is no English patch. As recently as 2019, somebody named Filler was looking for help completing an English language patch, and he had already posted on one other PC Engine website and had gotten no help there. And since the thread has been dead since 2019, I assume he got no help at romhacking.net either. So the project is in limbo, incompleted, or possibly not even started. It looks like it was dead on the vine because nobody was really interested in Eternal City. That's a shame because this is a rather fascinating game. There's very little English language information out there about it, and what little I could glean from playing it matches what I could find on the internet. For example, on the ROM hacking website, there is a very short entry for this game. It says, despite the cutesy picture, this is a pretty crazy game. You're a robot, you run around and shoot things, and generally fall down pits because you can't jump across them. From what I played, the game has a definite Metroid feel because you're running around getting power-ups at various points. It's pretty fun. That's an accurate description. It matches up with my own experience because, as you can see, I am this giant mech robot thing that's got an unlimited amount of ammo to a point. When it runs out, it's very slow to replenish, so even though it's unlimited, you might want to not just run and gun. You can, but then it takes forever for your shots to fire while they're reloading. So you can run and gun if you want, but do so at your own peril. Maybe play a little more conservative than that. You've also got a shield, and from what I've seen, it's a pretty robust shield because at no point during the recording of this gameplay footage did my shields actually run out. I think they might replenish over time. I'm not 100% sure of that because I think some of these power-up points that were being referenced on romhacking.net are also replenishing my shields. You don't really know when or where it's going to happen. You just seem to randomly find these portals, walk into them, there's a bunch of text in Japanese, you hit the select button, and then something's been upgraded. Without an English language patch, it's not entirely clear what was upgraded. Your weapon, your shield, your power. Sometimes it gives you a little hint, like it'll say one word in English, like laser. Okay, so I got a laser shot, but how do I select it? I don't really know. It just happens like that. The funny thing about it is you don't really need to know because you're so well equipped and the gameplay is so simple and straightforward that even without knowing what's going on per se, you can still make progress. Like eventually you're just going to work your way through these pits to a boss level, and once you defeat that boss, it gives you an option: zone 1 to the right, zone 2 to the left. And obviously if you want to keep making progress in Eternal City, you want to go to the left to zone 2, and then you start dropping down through the pits again and fighting more things and collecting more power-ups. So on and so forth. Rinse, lather, repeat. That's what Eternal City is all about. But nobody seems to have documented this game in English to the degree that would really explain why you're doing this, or if it's even a property in Japan, like if it's based on an anime or a manga that has some sort of traction over there. For example, PC Engine Software Bible, which is normally reliable in these kind of cases, has a one sentence entry that I think is about a dozen words. It says, and I quote, "Horizontal run and gun with mecha designed by the legendary Masamune Shiro." That's it? You can't tell me any more than that? You can't even tell me why Masamune Shiro is legendary? Man, that's just nothing on top of nothing. That's nothing squared. I think Eternal City is a game that might fool a lot of people. The title makes it look like it's a role-playing game. The intro screen might make it look like it's a turn-based strategy game. Then once you get into the actual gameplay and start scrolling left to right, you're like, okay, this is an arcade platformer run and gun shooter type game. It totally fools you when you first see it. You have any kind of expectation going in based on the title, it's going to be completely rewired once you start playing it. So yes, I do wish there was an English language patch available for it, but I think part of the reason it doesn't exist is because it's so easy to play without one. That may be why Filler had no luck at romhacking.net getting people to finish a English patch for this game, because people who played the game would just say, why? It already works. It's not an RPG, it's not a tactical strategy game. You don't need to know what the menu options are in English to select it. Just move to the left and right, jump up and down, and shoot a lot of things. You're good. No extra effort required. And if people feel that way, then this one will remain in the state it's in for now, maybe forever. But play it anyway. Find a download, try it in emulation. Eternal City is surprisingly good. It's a hidden gem. I will go so far as to say that. It's a hidden gem on the PC Engine library, and it certainly seems like one that would have been very easy to convert for the North American market if anybody had bothered to. Naxxit Soft certainly could have. That's the anagram for Taxan and vice versa. They published a lot of games, so it's not like it was out of their wheelhouse to port a game for North America, release it here. It's not a cheap game. A complete copy can go for $55 with quote-unquote free shipping from Japan. If you want to pay that much, go ahead. Not telling you not to, but if you do want to pay that much, maybe just know what you're getting into. Watch this gameplay footage, try it in emulation yourself, then put down $55 for a complete copy of this Hue card. It's good. Is it $55 good? Debatable. I mean, that just depends on how hardcore you are about your PC Engine games, and I'm on the fence with that because I love PC Engine, but I don't love spending $55 a game, and they get more expensive from there very, very quickly. So, bottom line, if I gotta bottom line this, is Eternal City is good enough to try. It's certainly good enough to get a patch if anybody ever gets around to it, but happily, it's playable without one. So, I think this one is worthy of your time. Maybe slightly less worthy of $55, but if you're out of other PC Engine games to buy because you've already bought so many, consider it. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. All of those things help the channel grow. The PC Engine Files takes place every Tuesday, but there's new content every day, so come back for more. Peace. Welcome to your doom. This is the PC Engine Files, and this is Juouki, Juuouki, but you may know it better under another name, Altered Beast. I did not expect that when I randomly chose this game for the PC Engine Files, nor did I expect it would be a very inferior version compared to the Sega Genesis version. Some things may be immediately obvious just from the footage, such as the fact that voice samples are removed. Some might call that an improvement, but honestly, the charm of "Wise from your grave" is part of what makes Altered Beast a cult classic and a meme, so to not even have those voice samples is, to me, a detriment no matter how bad you think the original samples are. What is far less forgivable and far more egregious is how slow everything is. I don't just mean slow auto-scrolling or slow enemy movement. I mean, that was probably a concession to making it look fluid instead of janky. But I mean everything you do, every punch you throw, every kick you throw, every jump you make feels delayed and awkward. It's built-in lag where there should not be any. The worst is the jumping because you have to hold up to jump, and it takes a full second before it responds and your character leaps in the air. So if you're trying to time an enemy that's overhead, forget about it. You're going to have to move all the way across the screen, hit jump, and hope you intersect them by the time you go airborne and the time they arrive at the part of the screen you're in. And you know how you have to kill the wolves when they run on the screen so you can collect the orbs they have and turn yourself into the titular altered beast? Well, good luck doing that either, because you can't hit them fast enough because of the delay, and then when the orbs do appear, they're out of reach because you're getting swarmed by enemies and you can't hit the delayed jump in time to reach into the air and get it. So if you even get one orb of power, you're having a good day. It's very lucky and very random that you can actually achieve it. There's also no graphical wizardry that makes this port amazing in any way. There's no parallax scrolling, the enemies look less impressive compared to their Genesis counterparts, and sprite flicker when you get more than a couple of enemies on the screen at one time becomes so obnoxious, I would actually compare it to the worst of the Atari 2600 library. And that shouldn't even be a thing, considering the PC Engine was, in specifications and abilities, far superior to a Nintendo Entertainment System, let alone an Atari 2600. But the programmers just couldn't handle it with this version, so Juoki, or Altered Beast on PC Engine, is incredibly laggy, flickery, difficult to play, difficult to control, and just an absolute mess of a game. To be fair, the original designer of Altered Beast, Makoto Uchida, had nothing to do with this port of the game. He had some limited involvement with the Sega Genesis and Sega Master System versions, and reportedly said that he wasn't even worried about Altered Beast being ported to the Genesis because he knew the hardware was just as capable as the arcade board that he originally designed it for, which may be why that's the superior version of Altered Beast compared to almost every other port. It's certainly superior compared to this one. I think for the first time in the history of the PC Engine files, we need to coin a brand new phrase, and it goes a little something like this: Genesis does what PC Engine don't. And that is probably the reason this game was never ported to TurboGrafx 16. Why would Sega allow a graphically inferior version of a game that was a pack-in title for Sega Genesis to be released in the same market as that game? They wouldn't, they shouldn't, and they didn't, and that is to their credit. It's not to their credit that this version exists, it's just to their credit that they were wise enough to not release it in North America. If you are really hard up, and I mean desperate, to play Altered Beast on a PC Engine or a TurboGrafx 16, then I suppose you can get your fix from this. But it's not an experience I would recommend. Say you have a Mister with a field programmable gate array, and you can load any core you want. You would probably want to play either the arcade version or the Sega Genesis version. You would not load the core for PC Engine and play this version. There's no reason to do that, especially when there are so much better games you could be playing on a PC Engine core in the first place. You could play Bonk's Adventure, or Newtopia, or Outrun. You wouldn't play Altered Beast. No frickin' way. And of course, the religious iconography might have been a problem if they thought that nobody would buy this game with all these crosses in the background, although that certainly didn't stop them from porting it to other systems. But you know how these things tend to go when the Japanese release games in a US market. They tend to feel like they have to censor all of those things or remove those things or alter those things to make them look different. It's like the Undertaker's cross not being a cross in WWE lore. They call it a crucifix, which is the dumbest name I've ever heard. We all freaking know it's a cross. We've seen people be hung on the cross. We know what it's used for. We know what it looks like. We know what he does with it. You're not fooling anybody by calling it a crucifix. That's just stupid. And so is this version of the game. Please, for the love of all that's holy, do not play Juoki. Play Altered Beast in any other form other than this one, but preferably Sega Genesis. And it pains me to dump on a PC Engine game this badly in a show called the PC Engine Files, but when it stinks, it stinks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you this is a passable version of Altered Beast. I would even go so far as to say it's a blessing that it's not called Altered Beast. Maybe people will just not recognize that it's Altered Beast because it was never released outside of Japan and has the ridiculous name of Juoki. So, Juoki deserves to be left on the dustbin of history. It is laughably forgettable. It is incredibly tedious. Don't buy it. Don't download it. Don't emulate it. Do nothing with Juoki. If I can do anything for you with this episode of PC Engine Files, let me give you a warning that you are wasting your time and effort, and as Sans would say in Undertale, you're going to have a bad time. Avoid that. Just don't give yourself that pain and anguish. Please, I beg of you, don't do it. Not even as a joke, not even as a challenge, like playing Desert Bus for 24, 48, 72 hours straight. At least they do that for charity. Nobody is playing Juoki for a charity drive. Nobody should. I would not inflict that on my worst enemy, let alone my best friend. Look at the way the enemies are just juggling the character in the screen here. You can't even win with that. I couldn't even break out of the chain. It was like Street Fighter 2, except the world's worst version of it. This is so bad. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files. Don't play this game. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. All of those things help the channel grow. And I'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of the PC Engine Files. Hopefully with a much better game than this. Because, ye gods, this is awful. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and today on the PC Engine Files, we're looking at I, Choniki, a sequel to Choniki, both of which were Japanese exclusive PC Engine releases, and probably destined to stay that way because these games are weird. If you know of Choniki at all, it's probably because of the JonTron video dedicated to Japanese shoot-'em-up games. Choniki was featured prominently in that video, although if I recall correctly, he was playing the PlayStation version of the Choniki franchise, but it's no less campy or strange than any of the games that came before it. To put it simply, the first game was a shoot-'em-up where bodybuilders are on a universal quest to save the remaining supplies of protein before it is all run out and stolen away and they can no longer bodybuild anymore. Yes, you heard me correctly. A shoot-'em-up around the idea of bodybuilders running out of protein. And it only gets wackier and more campy from there. The whole idea of the Choniki franchise really isn't to be seriously taken. You're supposed to just experience these games more than take them as literal, I want to be the best shoot-'em-up games that anybody has ever played. In fact, with this particular Choniki installment, I found you can pretty much leave it on auto run. You can move your PC Engine or TurboGrafx controller to the second switch or the third switch, hold down the fire button, and your bodybuilder will automatically target whatever enemy is nearest and fire a shot in that direction. And doing it this way, you can just sort of sit back and marvel at the graphics and the soundtrack. Because, again, it's all weird. You've got floating heads, you've got little figures jumping off of trampolines trying to hit you, you've got giant mechanical babies, you've got all this strange shit going on. And to be honest, it's actually kind of compelling because the backgrounds are scrolling at different speeds. The music is quite lovely. It's just bizarre though. There's not really many good words to describe what a Chowaniki game is like, and the longer this franchise went on, the weirder and more over the top it became. It's almost like the designers of the franchise at Messiah were deliberately trying to one-up themselves each time they made a new Chowaniki game. What's the weirdest thing we can do? What's the strangest thing anybody's ever seen in a shoot 'em up? What idea makes no sense to anybody other than us? Let's just let our imagination run wild and free and do the craziest thing that we can possibly do. And they succeeded in that respect. There is some amount of strategy to it though. Like with this sort of mid-stage boss that I have to keep fighting as I'm plummeting through the sky. You can't just stand in one place for this one. You actually have to circle around it and get out of the way, or you can get crushed between the edge of the screen and this floating platform head thing. So auto fire can get you so far, but you still have to move out of the way of things that are coming at you. It's not entirely auto run, but it is playable to a large degree by just holding the fire button and moving away from anything that comes toward you. You'll eventually hit it. Now, owing to how famous, or if you prefer infamous, the Chowaniki series is, these games are not cheap. Although the funny thing about this particular installment is that there's almost no difference between the price for a loose and a complete copy. $47 loose, $48 complete, over $100 new. When there's only a $1 difference, if you were really going to buy this game, you would just go ahead and buy it complete. It's obviously not at the high end of the rarity of PC Engine CD-ROM games, but it's certainly not at the low end of cheap PC Engine games either. So you have to ask yourself a serious question when watching this gameplay footage and considering the Chowaniki franchise. Do I really want to spend $50 on a bizarre Japanese shoot-'em-up game that makes no sense and is played strictly for the value of how campy it is? Maybe not. Maybe you would invest in something more straightforward like a Darius or an R-Type or a Gradius game instead of this. But for the comedic value, I can at least recommend that you try it in emulation or using some sort of Super SD, Super HD System 3 from Terra Onion, or whatever means you have to give this a spin. And you know what? If it really is your thing, that's more power to you. Chowaniki games are definitely an experience. I think that will be the title of this video when I release it. AI Chowaniki is a game best experienced instead of played. Here's another perfect example of what I mean by that. Got this mechanical contraption and people are climbing up one side of it, jumping off the diving board, and springing toward you in an attempt to hit you. And you can circle around the platform and destroy it, and then it turns into a gun and keeps firing at you. Besides, there's this woman that keeps appearing on the screen every now and then, and she spouts a catchphrase at you. That's Body Empress Conscious, or it's a pun in Japanese, ba-te conscious, as in body conscious, because everything in this game has to be about bodybuilders or bodybuilding or some sort of derivation of those things. Why ba-te conscious wants to stop bodybuilders from being bodybuilders when she appears to be a bodybuilder herself? Don't try to explain it. Just don't. Choaniki is best experienced rather than played. You just walk into the game thinking, what the F is this? And then do it. Because the more you try to understand it, the less you're going to understand. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's just camp, pure camp. So don't play this seriously. Maybe don't even spend $50 on it because I can't really recommend that. But if you've got friends over and you're having a few drinks and you want to play a really zany shoot 'em up for a little while, fire this up whatever way you can and just have a laugh because it is very emblematic of a Japanese sense of humor that maybe doesn't translate to an American audience, but has its own value in that respect. This is like Takeshi's Castle if you see the original version that wasn't overdubbed into English. It's that kind of humor. So, do I recommend it? Sort of. Aicho Aniki, I wouldn't spend the money on it, but I'd play it. I guess that's my bottom line here. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and this is a very wacky Japanese shooter. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your support. Like, share, comment, they all help the channel grow. And if you're new here, subscribe, and you'll get new episodes of the PC Engine Files every Tuesday, as well as new content on a daily basis. There's always something new at Mr. MegaManFan, so join me, won't you? And we'll look at wacky games like Aicho Aniki together. But again, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time with another new episode, but probably not something anywhere near as campy as this. Peace out. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and today on the PC Engine Files, we're going to talk about 1941 Counter Attack, one of only a handful of games made for the Super Graphics, the sequel to the PC Engine, which, unfortunately for NEC, was not commercially successful. Maybe if it had had more than 5 games, it might have been. Well, 7 if you count the 2 that are Super Graphics enhanced, Darius Alpha and Darius Plus, but basically 5 games and 2 that do a little more with sprites and scrolling and overall graphical look thanks to the power of the Super Graphics, but essentially 5 games plus 2. Now, I don't own a Super Graphics or any of these games because the entire collection, despite its small size, costs thousands of dollars thanks to the small number of systems that still exist in working condition, not to mention the small number of people who would have bought all of the games for it. Yes, this was a commercial flop in every sense of the word, which makes everything about it rare and expensive. You know what's not expensive by comparison? A Super HD System 3 from Terra Onion. It's not cheap, it'll cost you $300 and some plus shipping, but compared to the Super Graphics library, it's a drop in the bucket. And you can just plug it into your existing PC Engine, TurboGrafx 16, etc. And thanks to FPGA emulation, you can play all of the Super Graphics games on the console you already own. No upgrade required. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, besides the fact that it's way cheaper, there's games like 1941, which is a classic vertical shoot 'em up made by Capcom. In fact, other than emulation, this is the only official way to play the game. It was released in arcades on or around the following times: in Japan, February 1990, North America, May 1990, the European Union, just 1990. On Super Graphics, it came out the 23rd of August, 1991. The closest thing it got to an official port other than the Super Graphics is Capcom Arcade Stadium, which came out in 2021 on Nintendo Switch, PS4, other platforms of that sort, and it was released in the second pack of Capcom video games for the Capcom Arcade Stadium. So if you bought the whole pack, you could get 1941 Counterattack. It may surprise you to learn that Capcom themselves didn't develop this version for Super Graphics. They farmed it out to Hudson Soft. And according to Wikipedia, the director was Yoshiki Okamoto, the designers were Akira Nishitani, Noritaka Furumizu, and Toshihiko Uda. The programmer was Yoshihiro Shindome. The artists were Akemi Kurihara, Akira Yasuda, and Sadaki Matsumoto. The composer was Hiromitsu Takaoka, and that's all we know about the game. Oh, I think I might have mispronounced one of those names. Noritaka Funamizu, not Furumizu. Yeah, Funamizu. My apologies to the fine gentleman. And this was well received in arcades and the Super Graphics port. It is pretty obvious from playing it why it was well received. It's a lot of fun. I mean, who doesn't love flying a plane down a vertically scrolling field, shooting down enemy aircraft, battleships, tanks, mounted guns, everything that comes your way, you can shoot and blow up. Even things along the side of the screen that you're not sure you can hit. If you've got a power-up that gives you guided missiles, you can take those out too. You just have to maneuver left to right, take out everything in sight, avoid the enemy incoming fire being returned your way, and blast away. It is a very simple premise with some very nice power-ups. You get a triple ship, you get machine guns, you get missiles, you get to have a lot of fun. I think it's too simple to require a complex explanation. You blow shit up, okay? If you like shooters where you blow shit up, this is the game for you. Now, the question might be, do you need to own the arcade game or the Super Graphics or the Super HD System 3 just to play 1941? Probably not. I'm sure there's a way you can do it with emulation, and since it is FPGA on the Super HD System 3, that implies there's a core out there for Super Graphics, so you could probably load that same core into a MiSTer if you build one yourself or buy one pre-assembled. So don't take my word for it that you have to own a Super HD System 3 just to play this game, but considering the options you get with the Super HD System 3, the HD output from your PC Engine or TurboGrafx, the ability to play CD-ROM games off a micro SD card, and other features like the NES core, which I just consider a bonus, not a necessity. There's a lot of fun to be had with it, just like there's a lot of fun to be had with 1941. Just to be on the safe side, I did a little more digging before wrapping this video up, and I found a Capcom fan wiki that says that this was also included in the Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2 for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and Capcom Classics Collection Remixed for the PlayStation Portable. So you do have a few other options for playing 1941. Play it any way you want, but I really like what Hudson Soft did with the Super Graphics port here. It's definitely using the abilities of the Super Graphics to the max. You have a lot of sprites on the screen at any one time. You have a lot of action going on, and there's no slowdown or flicker. And sound in the background is great. Your playing controls really well with the TurboGrafx 16 controller or whatever controller you choose to use that you feel works with your setup. It's really smooth and responsive. The only thing that annoys me is the constant beeping when your hit meter has just about run out and you're about to die. It's like the world's worst smoke alarm with a dead battery. And you can't replace the battery in the middle of the game, so there's nothing you can do but listen to that alert going beep, 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 to tell you that you're about to die. I wish you could pick up health just to get that to go away, but to my knowledge, there are no health pickups in 1941. Don't let that deter you from playing this game. 1941 is freaking awesome. I said it before, I'll say it again. If you like to blow shit up, this is the game for you. So please find a way to play it, whether it's part of the PC Engine series or not. I don't think you'll have a bad time with it, regardless of the way you play it. I know this is called the PC Engine Files, but I'm just saying play this game any way that you can, any way that you like. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thanks as always for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, because all of those things help the channel grow. And I will see you again really soon with another edition of the PC Engine Files, new episodes of which are released each and every Tuesday. Bye for now. See you again soon. Hello, Megamaniacs. This is Mr. MegaManFan for the PC Engine Files. If I haven't articulated this lately, one of the reasons that I do this show is to expose PC Engine, or if you prefer, TurboGrafx 16 games, to a wider audience that might not have seen them before. And in the case of the PC Engine in particular, to people in North America who might not have played Japanese exclusive games like the one we're showing today, Bari Bari Densetsu. Now, I know the algorithm on YouTube would tell you, talk about popular things or current things. Talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, talk about Mega Man, talk about Mario, talk about the current topics in the gaming world, whatever controversies are going on with Blizzard, Activision, and Ubisoft, and Konami. But that's not me. That's not what I do. Not saying it's not what I'll ever do, but I would rather do the deep dives into things like Bari Bari Densetsu that are fascinating to me and hopefully fascinating to you as well once I share them with you. Now, according to the PC Engine Bible, which hilariously uses the term gubbins in their article, which I've only ever heard from Octavius King, this is based on a manga, and it's something of a rare breed, according to them, a motorcycle racing game. But I think you can glean that from the footage here. But let's go on. They say, quote, "You can guess how it works. There's a World GP mode where you compete in a variety of races, and a travel mode that lets you pick a track of your choice." I would call the travel mode more like practice for the World Grand Prix mode. When you pick a track in the travel mode, you just race it over and over again until you get down the curves and the turns and how to accelerate and when to slow down, and try to get the best lap time possible before you move on to actually competing in the World Grand Prix circuit. And here's where they mention the gubbins. Quote, "Also to consider is the gubbins that make up your bike, such as tires, engine, brakes, etc., as those have an effect depending on the type of course and the weather conditions. Races start with a qualifying lap that lets you get the feel, followed by the race proper. You are then placed and can hopefully move on to the next country." Now, for me at least, the only gubbins that I worry about while playing Bari Bari Densetsu is the automatic or manual shifting, because I find that letting it automatically shift is a lot easier, even though I'm sure people who've played this game more than I have would argue that manual gives you better control and allows you to accelerate more quickly and complete laps faster. Since I'm not an expert, and I was never good with a stick shift in real life anyway, I will just go ahead and defer to auto in most cases when and where it's available. As mentioned, Bari Bari Densetsu, which roughly translates to Vroom Vroom Legend, is based on a manga that was published between 1983 and 1991 over the course of 38 volumes, becoming an award winner at one point in 1985 when it got the Kodansha Manga Award for Shonen. It's also been compared to Initial D, since both of them focus on high schoolers and street racing, although in this case it's obviously motorbikes instead of cars. It's funny that in retrospect the manga were blamed for causing people to become street racers, trying to emulate the characters they saw in the novels, as opposed to the novels being inspired by real-life street racers. They were even given a special name in Japanese culture called Bozo Zoku, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong, and they were seen as a huge social problem in the country of Japan because they were doing dangerous things like riding around mountain curves at high speeds and potentially into oncoming traffic or into each other, or wiping out and causing accidents and causing emergency services to have to be called to save them. So if you picture the culture of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, which obviously is not an accurate representation, but an Americanized, westernized look at street racing in Japan, that might give you a glimpse into it. Or Initial D, as mentioned, which was adapted from a manga into an anime series, that might give you a glimpse of it as well. None of it could be considered authentic or accurate, not even by a Westerner such as myself, who is admittedly not knowledgeable to a great degree on these things, but I would take it with a grain of salt. Like, this will give you a look at that culture, but it's not going to be the actual culture. It just gives you a hint or a taste of what it's like. Just as Bari Bari Densetsu would give you a hint of being a motorcycle racer, but obviously not what it's actually like to put your hands on the handlebars and throttle up and gear shift and go around hairpin turns at breakneck speeds and try not to wipe out. This only roughly approximates it in a video game form, and you have no sensory feedback to the kind of things that you're doing. So it's all your eyes and your ears and the controller in your hand, and whatever you can glean from that is just a little taste of what high-speed motorcycle racing in Japan would be like. And of course, they take it around the world in this game. You're not just limited to Japan. Once you go on from practicing in the travel mode to competing in the World Grand Prix, each course is a different country. So they're exporting this culture around the world quite literally, which coincidentally they do in the manga as well. They move on from street racing to competing in professional motorcycle racing events. So they level up over time, and so do you while playing this game. Initial D was not the only one to get an anime adaptation, though, because there is actually an OVA, or original video animation for short, which is not the same as getting a full anime series, but can be considered a one-off or a feature length. They're usually not like an hour or 2 hours like you would think of a feature film, though, but in this case, more like 30 or 40 minutes, maybe an hour at the most, and they take bits of a manga and adapt it to an animated form. Sometimes they're self-funded, sometimes they're crowd-funded, sometimes a studio will do like a test pilot with an OVA, like, let's try this and see if it would work as an actual anime if we decide to go that route. Or sometimes the opposite happens, where an anime was already successful, but the fans demanded more, so they're like, okay, here's an OVA for all the people who wanted some more of this. Now you got it. Enjoy. And in fact, Bari Bari Densetsu got 2 OVAs, the first one being 50 minutes in length and the second being 54 minutes, so there you go. And the characters from the manga / OVA carry over into this game as well, such as Gun Koma, who I'm racing as right now. He rides a Honda CB750 as well as a Suzuki GSXR, and Ai Itu, who is Gun's girlfriend, and Hideyoshi Hijiri, who is Gun's friendly rival, and Hiro Okita, who is Gun's best friend. There's a whole cast of characters if you read the manga or watch the OVAs, and I don't know if the manga has been translated to English, if 38 volumes was enough of a run for it to be profitable or popular enough to translate to an American audience and find some traction there. Possibly. I think series with less known and less amounts of episodes or OVAs have been translated before. Like Chobits, I know there was a manga series for that, and I think there were only a handful of anime episodes of Chobits, like maybe 7 DVDs total with like 2 episodes each and a bonus feature. So that's obviously not a high amount of material, but it got its own manga that was translated from Japanese into English. So if Chobits could make it to the United States, then I suspect Bari Bari Densetsu could as well. But speaking from personal experience, I have never seen the manga at any bookstores, at Books A Million, at Barnes & Noble, and if it's available, it's probably someplace online like Amazon, but I don't know because I haven't bought it. I would, however, like to track down the OVA. I'm sure someone like WriteStuffAnime.com, hashtag not sponsored, they would probably have it. And in fact, my friend Sir Crunch might already have these OVAs, so I should probably ask him because he has a substantial collection of anime from just about every series imaginable, and quite an impressive collection of figures and memorabilia as well, which, if you've ever seen any of his videos on my channel, you would already know, or you could go to his channel as well, SIRKRUNCH. Also, hashtag not sponsored, but he's been a friend of mine since high school, so it's a long time going, and he's an awesome dude. So drop by his channel and check out his anime unboxings and anime content sometime if you like. He doesn't upload super often, but what he does have is pretty cool. And that's what I would say about Bari Bari Densetsu as well. It's pretty cool. There's not a whole lot of motorcycle racing games available for PC Engine or TurboGrafx-16, so if you're going to go that route, Bari Bari Densetsu is certainly not a bad way to go. There's a bit of a learning curve, no pun intended, on racing around these track curves, but it takes you a while to get used to the handling of the bike, and once you do, then you can start customizing it with whatever options you like and fully enjoy your gameplay experience. But I would say start out with the basic bike, get used to the way it handles on the D-pad of the TurboGrafx-16, accelerating, decelerating, and all that. And then once you get into your comfort zone, then go for the gold, figuratively or literally. It's also a fairly inexpensive game if you're looking to buy it. $15 loose, $20 complete. Shipping may vary. $21 shipped for a complete copy. Mint never opened, allegedly, is $80. I wouldn't buy that, though, because a lot of those end up being resealed. So if you're looking for a new PC Engine game, this is not only a good entry, but an affordable one. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been the PC Engine Files. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I feel like I did in the making of this video, and I hope you'll check out this game too. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and today we are talking about Bomberman 93 Special Version. And what makes Bomber 90 3 Special so special? Well, a few things. First of all, Bomberman 93 was available pretty much everywhere. It was not exclusive to any one region. It was available for TurboGrafx-16 very late in that console's lifespan, released at an unknown date in North America in 1993, but probably not too long after it was released in Japan on December 11th of 1992. And in that time since, it has appeared on Wii Virtual Console, Wii U, and home computers, so no shortage of availability of the original version of Bomberman 93. The special version, however, was only made for a video game contest that was held in the city of Osaka in Japan, so never released outside of that territory, never released commercially, and never even released with a box and manual, according to the Japanese console gamer website that I went to. Although curiously, Price Charting does have listings for a box and manual, even though the picture on their website only shows a loose cue card, so I'm not sure who's right about that. They've got the manual listed as $78.61 and a quote new unquote copy at $643, but I have never seen a manual, nor a box, nor a complete quote unquote new copy of the game. And in fact, it goes up for sale so rarely, it's hard to even know what price it should really command. The last one that sold was $142 and some change, and that was one copy for all of 2021. So if you think you know what Bomberman 93 Special Version is worth, you might have no clue. It could be worth $1,000, it could be worth $50. There's just not enough data. You could assume that it's more than the regular version of Bomberman 93. I would almost guarantee that with a 100% degree of certainty that you are going to have a much easier time finding Bomberman 93 than Bomberman 93 Special Version. The Japanese PC Engine version of Bomberman 93 goes for 25 bucks loose, 30 complete. Not super expensive, not super cheap. The TurboGrafx version, little bit harder to come by, understandably so. Loose 120, complete a whopping $282. But again, that's owing to how late in the lifespan of the TurboGrafx that this game got released in North America. Or by this game, I mean the regular version of Bomberman 93. Again, when we say special, what we mean is that this game was not commercially released and only available for one tournament in Osaka. And the reason for that is there is no one-player mode in Bomberman 93 Special Version whatsoever. It's meant to be a competitive tournament game with 2 to 5 players at one time and special stages to facilitate that tournament gameplay. This is not an unusual or out of the ordinary practice for Hudson Soft. They've released many special versions of Bomberman over the years just for tournaments and special events, including one that was rather famously available for Sega Saturn that I believe had up to 8 players at one time, which no home console version had ever attempted, and it was also in high definition and widescreen at a time when high definition was not widely available to the general consumer public, so the only way you could play this special Bomberman Sega Saturn version was at the one event where they showcased it, and then it was lost for decades after that. But I digress. Do you really want to spend anywhere from $150 to $1,000 on Bomberman 93 Special Version? Let's be honest, unless you're a diehard PC Engine collector who's got to have every variant of every game in every form imaginable, the answer is no. Since there's no one-player mode, you're going to have to get together friends to play this, and you're going to have a multi-tap to play it with, or if you emulate it, you're going to have multiple controllers synced up to your Mister or whatever else you've got. But either way, there is an ordinary burden being placed on you to have an enjoyable Bomberman 93 Special Version experience, because a multi-tap isn't cheap, multiple controllers aren't cheap, and getting multiple friends to show up at your house to play it in person, as opposed to playing one of the many Bomberman releases that has online internet play, that's going to be a tall ask. So you might enjoy some of the special features of Bomberman 93 Special Version, such as warp zones and conveyor belts and rotating blocks that prevent your progress unless you go clockwise or counterclockwise in the correct direction. These are all unique features, but at the same time, it's a very limited game set that only provides for multiplayer action. So for the purpose of this video, I recorded some gameplay footage of me playing a 2-player game where the second player just sits still and does nothing, because there's no AI control. There's no option for that. There's nothing I can do, man. Nothing. Game over, man. Game over. So that is it. I'm showing you what you can do as one player with one controller and no AI computer opponent available. Even then, it's still fun because it's a Bomberman game. There's always something satisfying about blowing up obstacles with bombs, but there are no enemies on the playfield to impede your progress. There's no human player working against you to try to do what you're doing to him, so ultimately, it's fruitless. You get a limited amount of fun out of playing with the options in the menu and listening to the music and looking at the very nice graphical design that Bomberman had reached by this point on PC Engine. This was a far cry from the NES versions or the home computer versions of the 1980s. Bomberman was becoming quite sophisticated in its look and style by this point. So it looks great, it plays fine, it sounds fine, everything here is good other than the lack of a single player mode and a computer opponent to play against. Those things would have made this truly special. So right now, the only thing that's special about it is the limited amount of hue cards of this that are out there and the price they could command if any of them go up for sale. Beyond that, it's a novelty, it's a curiosity, and it's an episode of the PC Engine Files. I am Mr. MegaManFan. I thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, because all of those things help the channel grow. And we'll be back next Tuesday with another edition showcasing another PC Engine game. But there's also new content every single day. So if you click that notification bell, you'll get alerted when new stuff goes live. And that's every day. So even without the notification bell, if you just click on your subscriber tab, you'll see whatever new content I put out, whether it's a homebrew review, Genesis Does, the PC Engine Files, Retro Hunting Adventures, or anything else random that I decided to cover on that day at that given time. But until next time, I've been your host, Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching, thank you for your support, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye for now. Hello, Megamaniacs. This is Mr. MegaManFan, and welcome back to the PC Engine Files. If you like this show or anything else that we do on this channel, please subscribe, give a thumbs up, and leave your comments below. All of that engagement is, of course, appreciated. MotoRotor MC is the third in the MotoRotor series for PC Engine. This one only released in the CD-ROM format, not on HuCard, and it released a little bit later in the life cycle of the console, which is why it may be somewhat obscure to a lot of people. In fact, it's late enough, being December of 1992, that I'm kind of surprised that Turbo Technologies Incorporated, or TTI for short, didn't try to bring this one to the Turbo Duo in North America, because that console could have used all the help it could get. The timeline certainly fits because the Duo got a soft launch in Los Angeles in late 1992 and a full rollout in early 1993. So this one would not have been hard to port. Very little localization necessary. It's mostly in English, and you would not know anything was weird or unusual about this game other than the word omaki in the main menu, and that just loosely translates to extra. So it's the extra features of the game, and if they just change that one word to extra, localization complete. If you've played any of the previous MotoRotor games, you would probably have an idea of what's going on here. You're racing against computer-controlled opponents, or with the appropriate Turbo Tap, or in this case, PlayStation 5 controllers, because I'm playing it through the PS5, you would use up to 5 controllers to control 5 cars at one time maximum, or any combination of AI and human controlled up to the number of 5, but there's always going to be 5 cars on the screen, and those 5 cars will tend to blitzkrieg you if you have the AI in control, because they can do very nasty things to you. They are equipped with weapons and can pick up additional weapons by driving over them on the track. You can get hit with rockets, you can get hit with bombs, you can be driven into a wall, and this makes what would seemingly be an easy super sprint style game much more difficult than it first appears, because your only goal really is to complete a lap and cross the checkered line, and you have to do it a certain number of times in order to finish the race. But chances are you're going to get hit by so many rockets and bombs and driven into the wall so many times that you're going to be very lucky to finish anything other than last place. I did manage to pull it off once with this track that has an S shape, because for some reason I was just better at cornering going around each of these bends than the AI cars, so I managed to creep up, I believe, 3rd place, if I'm remembering this footage correctly, but maybe it was 4th. Either way, it was not dead last, and that's the only time I could pull that off. Maybe if I was making use of the weapons, I would have done even better, but I found just trying to control my car while I was constantly under attack was so difficult that I didn't even worry about trying to attack my opponents. I was just out for survival. I just wanted to get around the course. And steering may not be intuitive to you, which is a gripe I've had with previous MotoRotor games. This one, slightly better, I guess. If you use the left and right on the D-pad, you can make 90-degree turns. That's really the only way I've found that you can effectively control the car. Sometimes if you push up or down, you'll turn in that direction, but sometimes you won't. Left and right are really the only acceptable ways to go. And using the PS5 controller, there are two specific buttons that either drive you forward or drive you backward. And the square and the X are the only two of those buttons you will need. The others would be for the weapons I previously mentioned, but square and X. And whatever the top speed is, you pretty much want to be driving it all the time. You don't want to let your foot off the gas. When you're holding one of those buttons, just keep holding it and corner the best you can. You'll have some momentum coming around the corners, and you'll have even more if you hit one of the warp pads. There's occasionally pads that appear on the screen. They remind me of the supercharged ones you'll find in games like Mario Kart, where you hit them and get a boost of acceleration. And this can make it really hard to corner, but some of them are in the lap purposefully that you have to drive over them as you're making the lap. You can't really avoid them. And there's one that's really nasty that if you hit it, it shoots you right into a corner, and you're going to lose a lot of valuable time trying to back out and turn around when you get cornered up there. So it's a frustrating game. I'm not going to go so far as to say Moto Rotor MC is a bad game, but I will say it's not one that you can immediately become great at. Your best chance of succeeding is if you had any previous experience with it, and given this game is now 30 plus years old, I'm going to say the likelihood that you had experience with it, unless you were a hardcore PC Engine fan, is low. And this game is probably brand new to you if you're seeing it on PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, or Xbox One. All of those places, it's been made available in the digital shops of your choice. So you will definitely come across this game, and you will definitely 99.9% likely not have ever played it before. So all I can say is it's not worth it. There's a very robust suite of options at the beginning for adjusting your pixel size, overlaying filters to recreate an authentic 1990s CRT, and pause and rewind features are included. It's worthy of M2. It's something that if you saw it and said, I wanted a suite of games that had these features, this company could provide emulation of classic retro games and have all of those options included. I think you would wind up satisfied that it was robust enough to create the display with your preferred options, whether it's pixel perfect or 4:3 aspect ratio or widescreen, which I personally wouldn't do, but whatever you chose to do, I think you could do it. It's all thanks to this company. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of their name, but I'll try my best. It's Radalaika Games SL. They've been putting out a lot of classic re-releases lately. They've been busy beavers. And not as much so as M2, but recently they put out both Moto Rotor MC and Mages and Treasures. And I'm going to look at their website and see what other games they've done recently. Mecha Bolt, Blackberry Honey, Super Onion Boy 2, Kenduro, Kansei, Gardener's Path, Forgotten Hill, Clang 2, Jinug. That's probably the one that most people would have heard about before Moto Rotor MC. Jinug was a very expensive shooter before its re-release, and thanks to being on Virtual Console, or whatever you want to call modern emulation on digital storefronts, it's now accessible to people. And the same can be said for Moto Rotor MC, which probably isn't among the top expensive games at PC Engine, but at $6.99 on a digital storefront, it's kind of worth trying, even if it's a very hard game to master. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been the PC Engine Files, and thank you as always for watching. I'll see you again soon. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and today on the PC Engine Files, we're looking at Crossweaver Cyber Police Force, which already puts me at a mild disadvantage going in because it's a sequel to Cybercross, and I've never played Cybercross, so there are some things that are obviously referenced in this game that don't add up to me because I haven't played the previous game. But what do you know, there are websites out there that can help me figure that out. So here's one. Video Game Den, which I often refer to when doing research for the PC Engine Files. Ahem. Crossweaver is a side-scrolling action beat-em-up designed by Face, sequel to Cybercross, originally released in 1989. The world has been at peace after the great battle against Dr. Nozumi, but a new enemy is rising in his place. An alien force called Doma is on a crusade to conquer the world and anything that gets in its way. The Galaxy Police Force has uncovered the aliens' evil plans of conquest and decided to send Crossweaver to destroy their hideout and put an end to the invasion. Thankfully, a lot of this plot is explained in English when you start the game, despite it being a Japanese PC Engine exclusive, which is something that Giant Bomb noted in their article about the game. Giant Bomb is another great source when doing research on PC Engine games. Video Game Den, Giant Bomb, both great places to check out information and learn more when you're trying PC Engine games at random. They describe the gameplay this way. The player starts out without Crossweaver armor and is capable of a variety of actions: jumping, crouching, hopping. Oh, that's a variety? It seems all like side-scrolling belt action moves from Double Dragon, but I'll take their word for it. That's a variety. The player is also capable of jumping kicks, crouching kicks, and punches. Gee. Again, Double Dragon much? A turn kick, a basic standing kick, or a punch. Need I say it a third time now? After acquiring the Weaver armor, the player's firepower greatly increases. Well, I would hope so, because if there's one thing I noticed from playing Crossweaver right away, it's that you get mobbed. These enemies spawn constantly and endlessly, and even if you are mashing on those jumping and kicking attacks, you're still gonna take a hit. Your life bar is very short at the beginning too, so it doesn't take long to accumulate enough hits to die. And this is not a game where you get multiple lives. You get one life, and when your hit bar runs out, game over. You can continue or quit at that point. So I'm probably going to recommend that you look up some sort of cheat codes to fill your life bar or make you invulnerable for a little while, because you are getting killed very easily unless you have perfect timing. The hitboxes, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying you have to have the enemy the exact distance from you that you throw a strike and hit it at exactly the right time, or you miss because you were too early, or they hit you because you were too late. There is no forgiveness in this sequel to Cybercross. I don't know if the first game was more forgiving or not, but I've actually seen some people complain that this game is too easy compared to the original. If that's the case, I have my doubts about ever playing the first game. Eventually, the only way I could find to make progress was to knock down these capsules that you see flying overhead, because they contain very small increments of health. Not enough to fill your health bar, but enough to keep you alive as you move from left to right, which eventually became my sole goal because I couldn't time the enemies right, I couldn't mash the buttons quick enough, I couldn't even just spam a spin kick, which you can do in Double Dragon to get through a lot of difficult spots. The only way I could do it was to very cautiously and trepidatiously move an inch or two forward at a time, try to knock out the enemies, and then immediately go for any capsule that went overhead to get a little bit of health back. Eventually, by inching carefully, attacking without mercy, and collecting every single health capsule, I eventually managed to make it all the way from the left side of the stage to the right, where I promptly got mobbed by a squad of red warriors and beaten to a bloody pulp. Game over again. Now, from what I understand from Giant Bomb, eventually things do get better if you stick with it. You can get a sword as a weapon power-up, you can get a gun, or you can get a boomerang. They are characterized by red, blue, and green armor respectively. Also, apparently, which I didn't make enough progress to find out, these power-ups stack up. If you get the gun or the boomerang or the sword, each time you collect the item associated with it, it gets a little stronger. So maybe you can eventually overcome being mobbed by these Doma and get somewhere in the game. But until you reach that point where you get the items or get powered up or both, it's a slog. And I regret to say I didn't have the patience to slog my way through it. When I got the game over, when I got mobbed by the group of red warriors at the end, I just called it a day at that point. I guess they're called Cyb 00, according to Giant Bomb. I'll take their word for it. If I can get past this first stage in another gameplay session, this game does appear to have some incredible depth to it. 13 stages in total, so I can't say that Face didn't put forth their best effort in creating a game with some extended playability, possibly even some replay value. It's just very, 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 very difficult to make any progress at the beginning unless you've got the timing down to a science. I don't feel like lag is the issue here because I'm playing it on my MacBook for the purpose of recording this review, so I'm pretty much one-to-one from the display to the controller here. It's not like I'm playing it on the TurboGrafx 16 through the Super SD System 3, through an HDMI converter to the television, and then the television is introducing whatever lag it has on top of me running it through all of those different products. Then again, I've never really had much of a problem with lag doing it that way when I run any of these games for the PC Engine files, so I can't really attest to that being an issue in either case. I don't even think if I loaded this game onto my Turbo EverDrive and put it in the Turbo Express that it would be any better or worse than this. It just seems like the game is designed this way on purpose. Endless swarms of enemies, precise attacks to knock them down. Sometimes you have to crouch, sometimes you have to kick, sometimes you have to punch, sometimes you just have to spin kick and pray. But whatever you do, you just have to deal with many waves of enemies. For some people, this might be really fun and exciting. I find it very frustrating because, well, let's make a couple of comparisons here. First of all, I already referenced Double Dragon. At least when you play it in the NES or even the arcade versions, you get time to react to enemies. Even if you have enemies on either side of you, you get a chance to come up and address one and then go back and address the other. And you have a little vertical movement where you can go up and down to orientate yourself and or avoid getting hit if you're not on the same plane that they are. And there's no such vertical option here. There's no way to catch up to one enemy and then turn around and get the other. They run up to you quick on both sides. You got no choice but to just move as fast as you can. Another comparison would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 4-player arcade game, or any of the home versions of that. You can get swarmed by multiple enemies at one time, but you never feel overpowered and completely out of control because you've got a large hit bar. You can pick up pizza and recover health that way. And mostly, when you're attacking, your enemies are kind of stupid. They're going to stay away from mobbing you, and even if they do get a hold of you, you can wriggle your way free by mashing the buttons repeatedly, and they don't take a lot of your health when they do that. They don't just instantly suck all your health away or knock one health out of you immediately. you get a little chance to react to things. But even then, you don't really need to react because your attacks are so powerful. Your nunchucks, your katanas, your basic jump attacks, everything is super effective in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. I can't say that about the attacks here. They don't feel super effective. Yeah, I'm making Pokemon references unintentionally. It's super effective. Nothing in Cyber Police feels super effective. I get it. I've read the reviews, I've seen the articles about this game. It seems to have gotten a good response both back then and in the present day. Some even refer to it as being one of the most well-known PC Engine imports for those who are into the PC Engine scene. That's great. I'm gonna just say good on you if you like it. Not good on me because I'm not very good at it. Maybe with some more trial and error, I'll get better.